Now we will see how to do Swagger documentation. The Swagger documentation is very important in an enterprise level application because that provides a way to test, and then that provides a cool, nice way to document your service as well. That provides a documentation for your consumer to know what is the request they need to send and what the response they will be getting from each and every operation. Here the Swagger UI will look something like this. Now we will create the Swagger documentation. So to create Swagger documentation, we need to have two dependencies in our project. One is Swagger docs and another one is Swagger UI. We will install these dependencies npm install. So shortcut is I swagger -dos here swagger js doc swagger -ui -express -s. This -s will save this dependency to our package.json. Now I will execute this query in the index.js. Create two constant. Here constant swagger js doc equal to recur swagger js doc, and then constant swagger ui equal to recur swagger ui express. Now we have defined our dependencies and we have imported our dependencies into our project. Now we need to define our Swagger options. So for that I will create a JSON file, constant Swagger options definition equal to, here I am using OpenAI standards 3.0.0, so I am mentioning it as openapi colon 3.0.0, and then here I am defining some metadata for the Swagger info. So info equal to title. The title I am mentioning it as employee management API, this version as 1.0.0. These are some of the metadata relating to our service. So description employee API or employee management, and then contact information. Here developing it as team, you can give your team details. The servers, so here I am mentioning the servers as so here this is array, you can mention a number of servers. So now we need to define the APIs. So the APIs is the one where this Swagger should search for our documentation. Here I have placed everything in index.js. You can also specify some wildcards. So I will try to do how to specify the wildcards here. So if you want to search all the JS files in your root directory, you can put something of this sort. So if you put something of this sort, all the JS files present in this root directory will be searched for the APIs, and then those documentation will be added to the Swagger UI. All of my documentation will present in index.js, so I am mentioning it as index.js. Now I have created Swagger options. Now we can create Swagger docs. Swagger docs equal to Swagger JS doc. Here I need to pass the Swagger options whichever I have created. Here I need to use app.use because here I need to create the endpoint, so in which we can able to see the Swagger UI. So -API docs, you can create any endpoint as you wish. I personally prefer this endpoint to store all our API docs, so I am giving it as API-docs. And then here Swagger UI dot serve comma Swagger UI dot setup Swagger docs. Here I need to pass Swagger docs, which I have created line number 28. Yep. Now this is fine. Now we have created our base structure to get the Swagger docs and then to create the Swagger UI based on the Swagger docs. Now we will try defining our parameters in this API. So what I will try to do here is, before creating our documentation, I will try to go ahead and create some definitions. So definitions are the schema definition. So here we have two main schemas. One is employee schema and another one is team schema. So here we will try to define those schemas with the Swagger definitions. So I need to create multi-line comment, and we need to create Swagger, and then here we need to put definitions, and this is YML based, so you need to make sure your indentations are perfect. If your indentations are not perfect, it won't work. So here I have giving one space. I need to define this inside the employee, so I am giving two space here. So type is object, because this employee is of type object, and then this is properties. It has 6 properties. First one is name. Watch out the indentation. Here I am placing this name inside the properties. I am mentioning it as type string, and description is name of the employee. This is not needed, but this will provide a way for your consumer to understand what this field is, and then you can also give an example for them to execute and see what really happens. Now we have created a property name. Now we will create another property name date of joining. Copy this name property, paste it here, and here instead of name I will change it to date of joining, string, and date of joining 2020-08-30, and then I will paste it again, and this is email, and this is email of the employee jairamchandran@wizpath.com. Another property, this property is gender of the employee, this is male, and bio, so the bio is string, and then biography of the employee, father, and software developer, and designation string, and designation of the employee. For the employee, here I am making it as software engineer. So here we have defined the employee definition. Likewise, now we will define another definition, which is a team definition. We will change it to team, and then here name of the team. Here I am making it as JavaScript, and then no need date of joining, email of the team, Java description of the team, and then here this is JavaScript developers. Now we have defined our definitions, and in this definition we have two definitions. One is employee, another one is team, and we will create another one definition. So this is, so here I will define this as integer, and this property name is employee underscore id, employee underscore assignment, team underscore id. This is also of type integer, id of the team, and then this is 2. Now we have successfully created 3 definitions: employee, employee assignment, and team. Now we'll go ahead and create. First we will try to create the definition for our create employee, and Swagger employee, and here this is post method, so I am just defining it as post, and then here summary is like create employee, or summary or description, whatever it is. You can even have summary and description also. Description create employee for the organization. Okay. Try to give a space here, and then define the request body. So the request body also should have the same indentation like a description. So request body b caps, and inside request body you need to mention the content, application JSON, application /JSON. You need to mention the schema. So here in the schema we can refer the definition whichever we have already created. So to refer the definition, $ref : define your definition whichever we have already created. So definition employee, and then you need to have the same number of space like request body, 1 2 3 responses : so first we will define 200. So if we get 200, the description is successful employee created successfully. 500, then the description is failure in creating employee. Now we'll try to start our application. Node 1 index, application started, but we got some error, it is crashed. So we'll see what is the problem. Properties, bad indentation mapping, properties. So here we have bad indentation and space, 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 space. Oh, I believe now we have given space for all the type. Now try restarting it again. Control C, Y. And now there is no error. Now open your browser, and here localhost 3000 API docs. We have successfully created a post. There is some problem with our request body. We'll see what is the problem. And then here we have created two responses, one for 200, one for 500. One is employee created successfully, one is failure in creating employees. Here we have missed the slash. Now refresh the web page, and now we can able to see we have created the Swagger endpoint for post employee. Now we have this request body. Now we can try it out. Click try it out. If we execute it, now this will be given as the request, and we can able to see the response. The response body is we got the ID 3 created, and we got the response code as 200. I have created the Swagger docs for team. Just I will copy and paste. So here I have mentioned the context root as team, and this is post, so I mentioned it as post, and summary is create team. It takes parameter which is body. So in this body I have already defined the schema team, so I have mentioned the schema team here, and in the request body I have given the team, and in the response I have mentioned 200. Here we can even have 500, and description is error. And now we have created the Swagger endpoint for team as well. Now refresh this page. We can able to see we have created for team and we have created for employee. And here in the parameters we can able to see we are having the body as a parameter. So you can try it out. So here if you try to execute it again, we got a success response, and the new ID is created of ID 5, and then we can able to see the code as 200. By this way you can able to even create for another post operation which is employee assignment. So for this also I have created before. So here I will just copy and paste this. You can find all this in the GitHub repo which I have mentioned in the description. So here I have mentioned that's employee assignment, and it's a post operation. I have given the summary as create employee assignment, and here in the parameters I have mentioned the body, and I have mentioned the schema here which I have created at the starting. In the request body I have mentioned the employee assignment. It can have two response. One is 200 in case of success and 500 in case of any error. The employee ID as 2. Here we can edit this request body. So if you go to try it out. So here we can edit the request body. Here I am editing the employee ID as 4 instead of 2. I'm executing it again. I got 500 error because the employee ID 4 is not present in the table. Making it as 3. We got the success response because there is an ID of 3 and a new employee assignment got created which is of ID 6. So by this way we can able to test the operations whichever we have created using swaggerui. Now we have created swaggerui for all the post operation which we have done. Now we will see how to do the same for get operation. Employees. So here I mentioned the context root as employees and then get and the summary. This operation is used to get all the employees and description is same and there is no request body and there is no parameter. Here there can be 2 response. One is 200 in case of success and if there is any error we will get 500. So I will just add 500 here. Refreshing this page, I can able to see get with a different color. So here this is get operation. So if I try to execute this, I got a success response with all the employees. So here we have 2 employees with the same name but with the different IDs. Both the employees returned. So similarly we will try to create for teams as well. So it should be pretty straightforward. So here I have already done for team as well. I will try to copy and paste this here. So here the context root is teams and this is a get operation and the summary is get all teams. The description is get all teams. Here in the response it can be 200. This is for teams. I will also copy and paste to get the individual employee. Here it is a little tricky because here we need to pass the request param because this context path takes ID as a request param. So here we will see how to do that. So copy and paste. Context root is employee ID and also it has, and this is get operation. The summary is get as individual employee and description is same. And in parameters I have mentioning the path. That is, this is a path variable, so it should be path. But here, if you see, I have mentioned it as body. Since this is the request param, I am mentioning in as path and the name as employee ID. Here it should match whatever we have given in the context root. So it is matching the employee ID here. And the schema is integer and this is record and the description is ID of the employee. And we also gave the example too. We can edit this in swaggerui. So similarly, I will try to give team as well. So this is to return the individual team. So here similarly in the context root, I have covered this team underscore ID with flower brace. This team underscore ID is the request param and the summary is create team and the description is create team. And the parameters I have mentioned this in input as path variable. And then here I have mentioned that name as team ID. It is of the type integer and then it is record and the description is this is the ID of the team. And here we are mentioning the example as 2. Now we'll save this and then we will try to see what we are getting in the swaggerui. Now refresh this page. We got 3 post and 4 get operation. So here we will test what is happening in teams. Now we'll try to execute this. We got all the teams as a list. Now we'll go and execute the get individual employee. Now if you see we can able to edit this. So here instead of 2 I'll edit this as 3 and I click execute. If I execute this I got the response body as ID 3 and J Ramachandran. So here this is fine and then similarly in team I will go and try it out. Execute this. So here I got 2. So this looks perfectly fine. Now we have created the swaggerui for post and get operation. So here now we will see about the put. Here I have mentioned the context root as employee and ID. Here ID is the request param, so I am covering it with flower brace. This is a put method, so I made it as put. And then the summary is update employee and it consumes application JSON and it produces application JSON. And the parameters is first I will go with the request param, so I mentioned it as path and the name is ID and the schema is integer type, and this is record, so I mentioned it as true, and then description ID of the employee. Here this also requires a body, so I have mentioned the input requires as body type, and then this is body and record true, and this is body object. Here I have previously created the schema for employee, so I am just mentioning it here, and then in the request body I have once again mentioning the schema, the employee schema, and then the content as application JSON. Here I have mentioned the response. In the response I have also mentioned the schema team. This is how we'll get the response from employee put operation. Now we will also copy and paste the team. I think by now it is very straightforward, but once again I will say this just to make sure you are understanding it better. Here I have given the context root, and I have mentioned the ID inside the flower brace because this is a request parameter, and I have mentioned this as put operation, and the summary is update team, and it consumes application JSON and produces application JSON, and it takes two parameters. One is request parameter, which is path variable. Here I mentioned it as ID. It is matching with the variable which I gave in the context path, and then I mentioned this as record, and then in the body I have mentioned input as body and the name as body, and then I have given it as body object in the description, and I have mentioned the schema as team which I have created before, and then here I have created the request body, and in the schema I mentioned the team as a schema, and the response I have given 200, and then here I have referred the team schema, and the content is application JSON, and this description is success. Now we'll go and see how we are seeing this in swaggerui. Now refresh this page. Now there is two more operations got created in swaggerui. One is put employee. This is to update the employee. So here the request param is 2, and then it has a body object. Now we'll try to edit this. So instead of software engineer, I'm making it as software developer, and I try to execute this. I got success response, and the designation is updated to software developer. Similarly, there is team. Here I have two params, one is ID and one is body. So I will try it out, and here instead of JavaScript developers, I am mentioning it as JS developers. I got a success response with the description as JS developers. Now we have created the swaggerui for post, get and put. We have only delete remaining, so I will just copy the delete employee whichever I have created. So first I am mentioning the context path. So the context path is employee, and it takes request param employee ID, and the method is delete. In the summary I mentioned it as delete employee, and then it takes one input variable which is path variable, and here I given it as employee ID. It is matching with the variable present in the context path, and then I mentioned the schema type as integer, and then here this is the ID of the employee, and I also gave the example as 12. So I will change it to 2. I will change it to 2, and then response 200, and the description is success. I will also copy and paste delete team. So this looks also same. Here I have mentioned the team ID in the request param. Here in the parameter I have mentioned the team ID, and the schema type is integer, and the response 200 is success. And I will also create one more, which is delete employee assignment. So here it takes two input param. One is employee ID and another one is team ID. Here in the parameters I am giving two path variables. One is employee ID and one is team ID, and the response is 200. swaggerui. Refresh the page. So here, so it created three delete operations. One is to delete employee, one is to delete the team, and one is to delete employee assignment. Here to delete employee, just giving try it out, and executing it. I got success response because it successfully deleted the employee. If I try to execute it again, I will get 200, no employee to delete. That's perfect. Now here I'm going to team and I'm trying to delete 2. So here I'm deleting the team 2 and it successfully deleted the team 2. Now if I try to execute it again, I got no team 2 delete. Now I will delete the employee assignment. Now try it out, execute, and the response is null because we don't have anything to delete. So this is how we have created the Swagger UI for all the 4 methods and for all the operations whichever we created for this employee project. Thanks for watching this video. For more videos like this, subscribe to this channel. Let me know if you have any queries. In the part 2, we will see how to consume this in a client from React application. Thanks for watching.